Thank you very much. So I'll be giving a guided tour of our new Hubble web search form that we are very excited to be releasing very soon. I'll apologize in advance if there are issues, since I'll be doing a live demo from my home Wi-Fi, but we'll do the best we can. For context, this is the current Hubble search form. Many users who might be familiar with Hubble or use Hubble have probably used this before many times, and it's functional. It works just fine, but it's about as old as it looks, and we're in dire need of a new replacement for the web search form, and also to take an opportunity to improve it. And so this is what the new HST search form looks like. It is a bit expanded because I haven't currently full screened, but it is responsive in terms of the size of the window. And I'll just walk you through the features and functionality of the search form and just go through them all. One of the ones that is a little hard to demo, but is something that we're really proud of at MAST and is important to us, is the accessibility of the search form. The entire search form is 508 compliant down to the AA level, and every single button, text box, label, action, and tooltip has descriptive text associated with it, so that the entire search form does work with screen readers for those who use those. Much like the old search form, the new search form allows you to do a search based on a couple of different ways. One of them is to search for names of targets, and you can type in the name or upload a list of names. It also allows you to search for coordinates, and if you happen to know the exact dataset ID or the set of dataset IDs you want to retrieve, you can also provide those as a list as well. One of the nice things right away that I'll show off is we have real-time name resolving now. So if I type in an object, and as soon as I click out of the box or tab out of the box to lose focus, it will immediately send the target name over to our name resolver and report back with a return about what this object is. So in this case, it resolved my target, HD209458, a exoplanet host star, into the coordinates from Simbad. Most likely, we use Simbad and NED to look up coordinates for names of objects. And then for catalog information, like the Kepler or the test catalogs, since we host those catalogs at MAST, we don't have to look those up by other services. So it'll let you know right away that, yes, I understood what your name of your target was. And if you type in something it doesn't understand, it will be able to tell you, oh, I didn't understand what you meant. Please try again, before you have to go and fill out the rest of the form and hit search. So that's a nice new addition. It also allows you to upload lists of targets. So I'll do that real quick. This is a simple little CSV file. It has a couple of names of objects. It will go through each of those and try to resolve those objects into coordinates. And you can see in this particular case, out of my 7 strings, 5 of them resolved into a coordinate, but 2 of them did not. And if I want to understand why, if I click on this, it will tell me why I didn't understand what I tried to ask for. So in this case, it didn't understand what foobar meant. And in the other case, I had 2 different instances of the string M101. So it's just telling me, hey, you already had M101. I'm going to skip this for you. So it has very nice responsive real-time conversions of things into coordinates. Other nice features, so you can quickly be able to choose from a bunch of very common search parameters, including whether you want spectra or images or both. You can get calibration or science observations, and you can choose what instruments you want. You can either manually, by hand, toggle them. You can select all the instruments, deselect all the instruments, or it'll know which instruments are spectra, which instruments are images automatically as well for you. We have, of course, the ability to search on other key parameters like dataset name or proposal IDs or surnames. One of the nice features we've added to this new search form is type ahead. So let's say I want to look up HST observations from Adam Rees, and I don't remember how Adam spelled his last name. If I just do R-E-I, you can see it's starting to autocomplete what I'm asking for, given the list of already available last names in the database. And then, of course, I can say, oh, okay, there's Rees, good to go. All these forms support basic operations. You can specify for numerical fields greater than, less than. You can give ranges pretty easily. So if I want to search for a range of different exposure times in the database, I can simply type in something like 100 ... 1000, and that just means I want to search everything between 100 and 1000. So very simple syntax for specifying numerical ranges. Time-wise, you can enter a date, by hand. It does understand if you just fill in 2020, it will automatically turn that into January 1st, 2020. You also have a nice date picker and a time picker as well if you want to use those. And then these are the most common search parameters, and they're largely the same common search parameters that were available in the old search form, but there's a lot of other columns for Hubble data you can search on. And so if you need to search on other information other than these, you can go to the add conditions section. And this has a nice list of every available column. It displays for you in a nice way the name, the display name of the column, what the actual column in the table is named, the data type, and a description. And what's extra nice is that you can do type ahead again here, and it will filter in an intelligent way for columns that might match what you want. So if I want to type in the word instrument, you can see there's an instrument display column that has the name of the instrument. There's also an instrument config column I might be interested in for HST. And then it even picks up the word instrument in the description for the dataset column. So this is a nice way, sort of like what people are used to doing with some other modern search forms, to type in keywords you may be interested in and get some possible matches there. But if you really want to, you can also just scroll up and down through the full list and pick what you need to from that too. The values here operate the same way. So for strings, it supports wildcards. For numbers, greater than, less than, ranges. And you can add as many of these conditions as you want. The last thing on this front page is the ability to specify once you want to be returned. So by default, we have the following columns returned in your output table. But this is what we sort of have as a MAST recommended set. But you can actually ask for every single column, or just clear them all out. You can add, you can remove certain ones with these X's, or you can actually do the same type ahead and choose columns the same way you would with the constraints. So real quick, I'll clear the form to reset it, and I'm going to do a very simple query now for my favorite 209458 star. And one of the other cool things that I'll show before I do an actual search is you can fill out the form using the menu as much as you like. And at any time, if you hit the Show API Query button, this will tell you exactly what your command to do the search is through our API. So like the old search form, our new search form supports programmatic access through URLs and sending requests. And so if you're not super familiar or comfortable sending requests through APIs, you can sort of see how that changes while you fill out the search form using very familiar buttons and windows and menus, and then use that as a learning tool to be like, okay, that's how I would construct this query in a programmatic way. Now I'll tweak it from there and keep going. And so we have a couple options. You can either submit a request through a curl command, or we'll be having a Python option as well. So you'll be able to specify any request you've built through a Python command, or probably through our astroquery.mast package. That's very user-friendly and generally can do so in 1 or 2 lines of Python. So we're looking forward to that as a teaching tool. I'll hit search real quick, and I'll show you what the search results looks like in a second here. So this table supports pretty much the same sets of things you can do with the current search form. These links take you to the same previews and proposal abstracts and things like that. It has pagination. So if you have a lot of rows, you can paginate using these arrows to see different results for very large queries. You can see in this case, there's over 1,700 of them that have come back. One of the other nice things you can do is sort. So I can sort the instrument column and sort either ascending or descending, or turn off sorting. But what's really nice about this search result table is that you can actually do multi-column sort. So I can sort by instrument to group them together, and then I can sort further by exposure time, maybe descending exposure time. And you'll notice that now we have all the ACS up front sorted from most exposure time to least. And as I scroll down, eventually I'll get to some other data sets that are not ACS. Here's some cost observations, and they are sorted from most to least. So it's a very nice multi-column support. And these little numbers here tell you the order that the column sorting is happening. And if you just click until there's no more numbers, that means you've turned off sorting. So I'll turn off sorting entirely. The last thing I'll probably point out before opening the floor to some questions is how to download data. So in the old search form, you would have to submit a request for different data sets that would take you to a separate landing page. You would sign in to your STScI account if you needed to get non-public data. You would then choose which types of HST files you wanted to retrieve. Then you'd hit go. It would send you an email saying, I'm gathering the files for you. You'd wait some amount of time. It'd send you another email saying that they are ready and staged for you on the staging area at MAST. And then you would retrieve the files through FTP. That process is being replaced now. You'll be able to do everything from this one location. So if I choose a couple of data sets, for example, and hit download data, we have our own solution now for being able to select which types of data files you want straight from the form. We have a couple of quick options to turn on and off other common forms of sort of HST data. You can also choose specific ones. So let's say I only wanted the DRZ files. You could quickly just turn everything off, turn on DRZ, and now you see we only have those files that are related to the DRZ files. Alternatively, if I wanted to try to do it through this, I can also type in the word DRZ, and it will filter only those observations that are present there. So there's a lot of options here for you in that sense. Let me try to see. So you notice now I've turned on every single type of file that's possible, including RAWs and all these other types of files. Let's say I wanted to add the RAW files. If I just type in the word RAW, here they are. I can select them here. And now if I clear this out, you can see now I've selected all the DRZs and all the raw files and associated files for that. So it's a way to choose exactly what you want. And you'll notice in real time, it will keep track of how many total files I'm asking for and what my total volume is. So you'll get an idea of, in real time, exactly how much you're going to be downloading. You can also add in some common additional files. So if you're interested in the observation logs or the jitter files, you can add those for the selected observations with a quick checkbox, and it will download those for you as well. And then also the reference files, you can do the same thing there. And then for downloads, there's two options. You can either start the download, which will begin creating a zipped tar file for you that will contain all of the files you've asked for, or you can download with an API. And let's say you had particularly a lot of files, you could request an API download. It will give you, again, a bunch of curl commands for each file one at a time. And so you can then take this curl file to your machine, and maybe you decide to just download a few of those lines and then download some more later, or you can comment it out or copy and paste these commands however you see fit to retrieve your data files. And similarly, there'll be an option for Python as well that will show you how to retrieve your exact files through Python commands using our Astro Query package, and also in a Python notebook in the future. So I think that's the whirlwind tour of the form. And I'm going to, one more important thing I wanted to comment on before I open up for questions. In the past as well, for the old search form, if you did a search and you needed to make an edit or change your search, you actually had to use the back button on your browser to go back to the main page and edit your query, which is very much not the way that modern search forms work. If you're booking flights or rental cars, you expect to be able to edit your query from the results page. And you can do that now here too. At the top, you'll actually see exactly what your particular search is querying on. This is read-only text just to give you some information about what you're actually asking for. But this edit query button will actually just pop up the front page in an overlay, and you can make a change. Let's say, I don't want all the data for HT 209.458. I just want all of the, let's say, Spectre that were taken. I can just change my query, hit search again, and it will return the updated search results for me using only those observations that were Spectre. And I can do that as many times as I want. And of course, it will also show you the updated API query as well if you ever want to do that. So I do think that's pretty much what I wanted to show today. I guess I can open the floor for questions for the next 8 minutes or so, if there are any.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. If anybody would like to ask a question, feel free to unmute yourself, start your video. You can put in the chat on the Space Telescope Slack channel. Don't be shy.
While we're waiting for some questions, what I just did there is I actually did a search with absolutely no conditions. And one of the things I'm very proud of as well is the responsiveness of the search form. So this is actually giving you every single observation for all 20, whatever it is, 30 years of Hubble in one table. There's 640,000 records, and it took about, I don't know, a few seconds on my Wi-Fi. And so you can actually see and download if you want the metadata for these observations to then work with offline too using the search form. I didn't talk about that, but besides downloading the data, you can download the table as well. So we can export this table of information, filters, gratings, exposure times, instruments, in a couple of different formats, CSV, JSON, and virtual observatory table formats. And so if you want to use that to prepare proposals or make a plot for a paper or a presentation, you can grab the metadata of the observations in an easy to use format and then write some code to ask questions like, how many observations of a particular filter do these objects have, and use that to convince people to give you telescope time to fix that problem.
Are there any questions?
I have a question, Scott.
Sure.
So could you show me this search that just all? How did you just click search button?
Yep. So the only thing that I did is if you have absolutely nothing filled in with the search form and you just hit the search button, it will essentially do a request for observations with no constraints. And so it will get you back the entire HST observation table. Now, if you want to download that file of 640,000 rows, it will take a while. It will take you probably many, many minutes to retrieve and download that file in these formats, but it is possible. And I should say you can, use the table to sort through it, paginate through it, and stuff like that. I don't think it's a lot of use case here, but it's nice to know that the form is performant enough that it allows this in principle.
Thank you. Can I ask another question or wait for other people to ask? If I can ask, so when you download data, when you select some of them, could you go back to kind of show that how you use this type ahead, searching for the data extension? Because I was a little bit confused.
Let me grab some files here, and I'll ask to download the data. Now I'm going to turn everything on. So this gives me, and I'll select nothing. So right now in the download interface, for each observational ID, we have all of the available types of files. You see there's raw files and DRZ files, and some of these I don't even know what they are, to be honest with you, but they're all available for you to retrieve. Now, if I wanted to only get the DRZ files, for example, I can do it two ways. I can either choose the DRZ extension using this selector here. And actually, it looks like I just, so I'll turn them all on for now. Or I can filter. So if I start typing in DRZ, you'll notice it's filtering all of the available files based on the word DRZ. So let's say I'll do drz.fits. Now it's showing only the drz.fits files that are available. And if I want to choose only those, I can go ahead and just mark them. Mark, mark, mark. And now they're selected for download. And if you'll notice, when I clear the search form so I see everything again, in blue are the things that I have selected ready to download, and only those drz.fits are currently selected in blue. It's a way to sort of do a quick job across lots of observations. Instead of having to go through one by one and mark each DRZ, you can do it across the board if you have a lot of observations in them. And if I do the download, I won't probably do it, but if I did, what you'll get is a tar gzip file that has only these drz.fits files in it.
Okay, so then, for instance, if I choose some one of the file from the extension tab there, so yeah, if I choose just result, yeah, and only that, could you do that? So to delete everything and then just the DLZ, and then so automatically select them when I use the extension bar.
Yeah, this essentially is showing, what you're doing is selecting which file to show in the download interface. It doesn't select them for you. If you want to select, now let's say now I'm seeing all of the things that have a DRZ extension, whether they're FITS or JPEG in this case. And let's say I want to select all of them. Well, now using the extension menu to request this, it's showing me in the interface all of the DRZ files. If I want to select them to download, I still have to go ahead and choose either check the boxes or use the select all here as a shortcut to choose everything that's being displayed currently. So there's two processes. The first process is to show you all of the options that fit your particular request. And the second step is to choose whether you actually want to download them or just see them. So these choose for download, these choose for display.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody else have a question they'd like to ask?
Yeah, I have a question. So so you said you get a tar.gz. Are there other options, or is that just what you get?
You have two options. You can either get a tar.gz or you can get a curl script that will download the files one by one into a directory structure in your browser's default download area. We do not currently offer the same different methods of bundling that the portal does, for example, where the portal offers, I think, like, actually, you know what? Let me not misspeak. Let me try this out. Okay, yeah. So there's only one type. We don't offer, like, you can get a zip or a tar or a tar.gz. We've really refined it down to just one particular type of zip file if you want to stream the files for simplicity.
And if you want the curl, you do download with API query?
Yep. And here you have your curl commands. You can see curl, and then it essentially requests each data through our API that you've selected. And then there's a Python command here as well that when it's ready to go, we'll do a similar thing through our astroquery.mast wrapper that is to be built.
Exciting.
Yep. And again, this is a teaching tool. So requesting files through the browser works in a lot of cases, but a lot of people aren't always comfortable starting from scratch to request files through a request, through an astroquery request, or through a curl command. So this will let you figure out how to do it, and then take this and run with it, change it, modify it, and learn how to build programmatic requests using something very familiar like a browser.
So you got a compliment from David Rodriguez that this is amazing.
Expected, but thank you, David. So
Really
I will
is.
also make a note, if there's no more questions at the moment, that this is the long-term future. So in our roadmap, Hubble is going to be the first one out the door, but we will be adding more missions and more collections of data sets over time to this format. And so this is going to be your long-term home for being able to search for and retrieve all kinds of data at MAST. Hubble is the first one out the door, and there'll be a lot more being added to it over time. So it's really going to be one consolidated you'll notice if you're sharp, a drop-down menu here. There will be more options in the future for all of the MAST missions and other types of data that we have at MAST through this one interface, through this one technology solution. So stay tuned. And we are planning to do a soft launch of this summer. So the old search form, ye old classic search form, will not be going away anytime immediately. We will plan to release the new search form alongside the current one so that people can opt in and get comfortable and hopefully give us some constructive feedback. That's the most important thing. Let us know what's working and what's not. And then relatively soon, a couple of months probably, after we release the new search form, we will be removing the old search form so that everybody starts using our modernized solution for searching Hubble data through a web form.
Very nice. Okay, well, if anybody has any more questions, we probably could take one or two more. Otherwise, I encourage you the last little bit to head over to the Space Telescope booth. I know that they've been lonely in the Zoom room and but on Slack or beyond this meeting, I'm sure that you can get in touch with Scott.
Yeah, if anybody would like to participate in an early access sort of test, a one-on-one test with our designer, go ahead and email either myself directly or the archive help desk, probably sometime this month or early next. And for a few people outside the Institute, we'll be trying to do some one-on-one tests to get some feedback before we actually roll it out to live. So if anybody is interested in participating in that, it's about a 1 hour commitment, a 1 hour meeting with our designer. We'll go through some questions, have you try out some things, give us your feedback, and you can participate in the early beta test before we roll this thing out for real.
Okay, great.
Otherwise, thanks everybody. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.